What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on our ProCharge 2006 Pontiac GTO. Now this is an LS2 car. We have a BTR cam, some 823 heads, long tube headers, and a bunch of other little goodies on this thing. It's a great running combination, and we have this D1SC ProCharger turned up as far as you can go and spinning it as fast as you can with this little D1SC. And this car has always ran a little bit on the warm side, but now that we're running it with AC, it's definitely pushing it over the edge and getting to a point where it's just too hot. So we have a few things that we want to try today. We're going to pull the thermostat out of it after we drain some coolant. I'm going to modify it and see if that helps or hurts our issue. And then we'll also check the functions of the fan, make sure that they are putting out as much air as they should be, because we are running the ProCharger fan assembly with their shroud. And I've heard over time that these things do tend to start to get weak. So we're going to try that. And while we're in here, we have also been having an issue with the starter. This thing will start after letting it sit for a couple weeks with the battery hooked up and everything. The battery is brand new and working fine, but as soon as you drive it a little bit and you get some heat in it, park it for a few minutes and try to start it, it is an extremely slow crank, and most times it won't even start without a jump box. So pretty sure that the starter is either on its way out, or the long tube headers, the heat from them has just taken a toll on the starter. So we've got a new one on the way that we're going to try to swap out today. And we're also going to make a new heat shield to go around it to try to help protect our new starter. So let's get through the intro and see if we can't get some of these issues fixed. So now that we've gone through the intro, before we jump into today's video, I want to mention, like I did in the previous video, a huge thank you to you guys for all of the support. We are up past 5,000 subscribers, and as a little thank you, I want to do a free giveaway for you guys. So what we're doing is, if you are subscribed to the channel and you comment on one of the videos where we mentioned this giveaway, I'm going to be going through at the end and selecting a handful of people. Someone's going to get a sticker pack, a couple people might get t-shirts, and then one select person is going to get a Stanley cup. Now all you need to do to enter this giveaway is be subscribed to the channel and comment on one of the videos where we mentioned the giveaway. Like I said, a huge thank you to all of you guys for the support. Now ievilenergy has been a huge help to the channel, and they are also going to be running a giveaway from the 11th for about a week, so make sure to get entered in that one. All you need to do is be subscribed to their channel, comment on their video tagging 2 friends, and also comment something related to ievilenergy products, and they're going to select one winner to win a fuel pressure regulator, actually the same one that we run on our Turbo Civic. So make sure to get entered up in both of these. Once again, guys, huge thank you for all of the support. Now let's jump right into today's video. So now that we've gotten all of that out of the way, we can finally get to work on the ProCharge GTO. So like I mentioned before, we're going to be modifying the cooling system a little bit, see if we can't get this thing to run a little bit cooler, and we also want to try to tackle the starting issue, and I think that's where we're going to start today. So we're going to get the skid plate pulled off of this thing, swap out the starter, probably make a little heat shield for it, and see if we can't get this thing to keep a starter alive for more than a few months. So let's dive right into it and get to work. So the first thing we're going to do is pull this skid plate off. If you guys seen quite a while back on the GTO playlist, we made this out of a sheet of aluminum. Came out really good, but we need to get it out of the way. We can set this off to the side and start trying to get at the starter and the coolant lines. Before we attempt to remove the starter, I want to kill our main power. That's the same as disconnecting our battery. Now that we've got that disconnected, we can start pulling the starter out. I don't know how well you guys can see the starter up in there, but we do have some heat wrap on it. We've had it on there for a long time. It seemed to prolong the life of this starter, but they still don't seem to last very long with the header right there on top of it. So we'll go ahead and get that blanket out of the way, start pulling the starter out. Had this blanket on there for quite some time, and it's a DEI brand. It seems to help a little bit, but still didn't keep it alive. So get this out of here. So on the back side of the starter, there's a little 8mm trigger wire. We're gonna go ahead and get that loosened up and popped off, and then we can do the main power wire. There's the little one. I had a little washer on it that I just heard fall. We'll look for that after. Now we can try to get the main power wire off, which is a 13mm nut. We got that one off. This is the harness for the starter that we just took off. I had mine wrapped in electrical tape so they wouldn't short out or anything. But we can tuck this out of the way now and start trying to get the starter out. I'm gonna unplug the knock sensor right here, just in case we need that extra little bit of room. Now we can undo the 2 mounting bolts for the starter itself. I can never remember which way we get the starter in and out of this thing. I don't remember if I come through here or if I come back over here. There we go. Got it. So we've got the starter out. It does still engage when it's cold. It's just when it gets hot, this thing does not want to engage. So we're gonna go ahead, set this off to the side. Once the new one comes, we'll get it slapped in. All right, guys, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take that heat sheathing that we made and kind of stuff it up in here around the header. Kind of something like that. And then we're just gonna take some wire, wrap it around it, and then twist it tight. We do have some metal zip ties, but I think we're gonna be able to do a better job with just some regular old school wire. So let's go ahead and give it a shot. Something like right here. And then we can do that. And then I'm just gonna grab them with these pliers. And if you can grab both ends of it, you can usually get a pretty decent twist and tightness out of it. Biggest thing is trying to get those ends we just cut tucked in so that you don't get stabbed on them when you're working on this thing. Perfect. So we got the call that our starter was in and we went and picked this thing up. Now this one is a Duralast just because that's what we had on the car and they warrantied it out, so we didn't have to pay for this. But these things have gotten expensive. I believe this one's just under $300 now and it's a reman starter. So if I was gonna pay that out of pocket, I'd probably go ahead and get an aftermarket one. But either way, we got it for free because of the warranty. So we verified in the store that it is the correct one. And we'll go ahead and get this slapped on. We are gonna try to make a better heat shield for this one, see if we can't prolong its life a little bit better, and get it slapped in there and see if this thing starts. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and try to get this starter up in here. So I'm gonna try putting these wires on while the starter is super easy to get to over here. There we go. There we go. All right, this thing's good to go. We got all the wires tucked up out of the way. Blankets on there. Our new heat shield is on there. Bolts are nice and tight. Wiring is tight. Now we can go ahead and start draining the coolant. I know it's probably hard for you guys to see behind here, but our Alloy Works radiator does have a drain on it right here. So we've got a bucket under us. We're gonna go ahead and try to pop that free and get this thing draining. Nope. Now that we got the coolant drained out of this thing, I'm gonna go ahead and pull the thermostat housing off. I believe it's just the two 10mm bolts right down in here. I'm gonna try leaving the hose right on it for what we need to do here. Two 10mm bolts, we'll get those pulled out, get the thermostat out, and go from there. So as you guys seen, we got the thermostat out of there. I took the little gasket off it. Now, this is the part where you should probably stop doing what I'm doing, but I want to try something. We're going to go ahead and cut this thing up so that it's basically just a placeholder for the gasket and let it flow as much coolant as the water pump will flow. Now, I know this might be counterproductive. It might do the exact opposite of what we're trying to do because it's going to allow the water to flow faster throughout the system, and it might not give it enough time to actually absorb the heat. But I'm very curious to see if this is going to help our issue at all. We also have one other thing we're going to try to do to try to help cut down on the temperature that this thing's running at. But these things are cheap enough to where if I try this, it doesn't work, or it does the opposite, we can just throw another one back in it. So I'm just going to take a die grinder. We're going to cut this here, and then this should come out of there. And then I haven't decided if we're going to cut these out of there to let like maximum flow through this thing. But we'll go ahead and get it thrown in the vise here and get this thing cut up. All right, so we got that off of there. Now we can go ahead, clean this up, and throw it back in with the gasket. And now we're gonna have all the water flow that this thing could possibly need. So let's throw it back in and give it a try. All right, we've got our thermostat bypass in there. I'm very curious to try this and see if it works. Let's go ahead, close the petcock on the radiator, fill the radiator back up, start this thing and try it out. Now that we've got the new starter in, we can turn the power back on and fire this thing up. Now, as you guys can see, we have our funnel hooked up, so I'm gonna pour some coolant in there, make sure we get any air bubbles out of the system before we go take this thing for a ride and see if it's any better than it was before. So as you guys can see, we got this thing rolled off the lift, and I did go ahead and do a couple more things under the hood here. So as you can see, we've got Gorilla Tape. There was a big gap here caused by having an Alloy Works radiator with the procharger fan shroud. They just didn't work too well together. So there was a big gap up along the top, and then a gap about that big all the way down each side. So I just went ahead, capped that off with Gorilla Tape, and then did the same thing all the way down the side as well. And the reason I did this is to test a theory, because if we can block the air that's bypassing the radiator and this thing actually runs at a better temp, then I'll know that we can build a better fan shroud that seals up a little better, and we should be all right. But these fans are also getting pretty old. They are the procharger fans, and I got them secondhand, so I don't know how old they actually are. 16.5 inch on this side, 6.5 inch on this side. So they might not be moving as much air as they once did. So we're gonna test it out with our air blocked off and see if it's any better. Now, I've got to run some errands, so it's a perfect time to test out our new starter as well. Like I mentioned with our old starter, this thing would get hot once you drive it a little while, and then it would not start, and it would act like it had a dead battery, super slow crank, and just would not turn over. So we put our new starter in there with the heat shield that we made, and I want to test this thing out, drive it around, shut it off, start it, and make sure it still fires up good. So let's get this thing up to temp. We'll go take it for a ride and see how it does. Sounds pretty decent with that new MagnaFlow muffler on there, the X muffler. Sounds pretty good. It's a little tame, but it sounds good. That's why we have our cutouts from SPLab. Then back to Streetcar. Make sure to use our discount code in the description of this video. Check those things out. They work really good. We have a video on the cutouts as well. I love them. I can be incognito, and then you can just simply this thing for a ride, run some errands. I'm just gonna be using the little app on my phone to read engine temp and stuff, because the factory gauge stays right about where it's at, right in the middle there. So let's go take this thing for a ride and see how it does. We are currently at 190 degrees, just cruising around here. Been purposely kind of keeping it in third gear, just letting it do its thing. So drive it around and see if the temp creeps up and if this thing will restart. Good thing is we're only at 194 right now. I feel like before we would actually be much hotter than that. Better than 230 for the moment. All right, let's pull into our first stop here and we'll come out and see if this thing starts back up. Now before the new starter, I guarantee you right now this thing would not start. So let's see how it does. So we're already up to 201. We're gonna drive it some more though and see if it actually gets to a point where it overheats or if it finally finds a point where it just kind of levels off at. So like I said, up to 203 now, but we're gonna go ahead and shut this thing down. I've got to run in to ship a couple things out and then we'll see if this thing starts. I think I brought a jump box hopefully just in case, but we'll test it out and see if it starts now. Now that we did what we needed to do, let's go ahead and try to start this thing up. It's been sitting for probably about 10 minutes. Normally it would not start with the other starter. It would just slow crank and not start. So let's go ahead and try it with this new one. Actually started right up, so that's cool. Let's get some airflow in here. It is hot out today. And let's go drive this thing a little bit and see if it gets too hot. Up to 210. And I'm not even like romping on it. And this car is also on E85, so I would think it'd be a little bit on the cooler side, but this thing's always been hot. It's just gotten a little worse lately. It's funny though, because our temp gauge stays right where you would think it would be. Like if I didn't have this digital display on my phone, I'd never know this thing was even getting hot. Like I said, I don't know if you guys can see it, but this gauge is still a touch under half. I'd bet money that if this thing did actually overheat, or where the computer thinks it's overheating, I bet you it would go from here to here instantly. So I don't know why they don't make those gauges a little more accurate. But we're up to 215. We've only been sitting here not even a minute probably. $217, that's the hottest we've seen so far. So I've been sitting here idling for probably about 5 minutes and the car's up to 221. I'm sure our intake air temps aren't helping at all. I don't know if maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe it's like changing the timing map with intake air temps, but intake air temps are up to almost 142 degrees, and then coolant temp's 221, and then engine oil temp is 222. So now engine temp, coolant temp is the same, 222. So it does seem like it'll continue to climb. If I turn the heat on with the fan on, it'll actually come right back down. So I don't know if maybe these fans are just getting really weak, but it's definitely still warmer than I'd like. According to the factory gauge though, it's perfectly fine, everything's fine. So a little strange, but we're gonna go ahead and shut this thing down. I'm gonna run in and do what I need to do, and then we'll come back out and make sure it still starts. Once again, with the old starter, it definitely would not. Little bit of a slower crank, but definitely way better than it was before. Before it just wouldn't have started right there at all. So definitely an improvement as far as that is concerned. Still don't like how hot this thing is, but we're gonna have to try to drive it and just see what it does. think we've seen what we've needed to see here. Let's head back to the house and we'll talk about what we're gonna try next. So as you guys seen, we took this thing out, drove it around, put it through its paces in traffic. We tried using it to run some errands, and I will say that we got the starter issue figured out, and that was definitely what was causing it, because with the new starter now, it doesn't matter whether it's hot or cold, this thing fires right up just like it should. So I'm hoping that we're able to keep this new starter alive a little bit longer than the last one, utilizing that heat shielding we made on the header. So hopefully that'll help keep some heat out of this thing, and that starter will continue to work. And I'll make sure to let you guys know how we make out with that over the course of some time here. Now, as far as our cooling system is concerned, I'm a little bit bummed out. It doesn't seem like we made much progress on getting this thing cooler, but I will say it's never boiled over, but it is a little bit hotter than I would like to see on the gauge display through the OBD2. Now, I did keep the car running and take an infrared temp gun, and I wanted to check what the temp was at the radiator. And on one side of the radiator, it would be like 190, 195, and then on the side where it would go back into the car, it would be cooling it down all the way to the 170s mark. So it's definitely doing its job, and it's definitely putting the coolant back into the engine a lot cooler than it's entering. Now, I'm not sure why it's still reading so high, since the radiator is obviously not 230 degrees, and it runs really good, but we do seem to be having an issue now with the car on E85. So I'm wondering if one of the tables is either giving it too much or not enough timing at idle or at low RPM, and that's causing it to create a lot of heat in the cylinder head area, and that is where the temp sensor is. So it would make a lot of sense if that is our issue. But like I said, kind of bummed out that we weren't able to fix it today. I will let you guys know how we make out, and I will make a video once we do finally get it figured out, whether we go with some bigger fans, make a new radiator shroud, or if the tuning fixes this thing. So we'll have to take a look at it, and I will keep you guys updated. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we are doing our little giveaway to give back to you guys as a huge thank you for helping us hit 5,000 subscribers. So make sure to be subscribed to the channel and get down in the comments below so that we can go through and pick a lucky few winners. One of you is going to get a sticker pack, another one's going to get a shirt. We might pick a couple for the shirts, and then one person is going to get a Stanley cup. So like I said, make sure to keep an eye on your comment, because that's how I will be reaching out to you, and then have you message us on Instagram, and I will verify it is who they say they are, and then I will get your address and everything to get that stuff shipped out to you. So like I said, guys, huge thank you for all of the support. I really appreciate every single one of you. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell, and check us out on all of our other social media platforms: Facebook, TikTok, and Bought to Build Official on Instagram. And we will catch you on the next one.
Bye.